Only a few months after the astounding discoveries connected with the pyramids in 2025, the world once again shuddered at news coming from the very heart of Egypt. New radar scanning data obtained literally a couple of weeks ago revealed something so incredible that it is hard to believe. Deep beneath the Giza plateau lies a mystery capable of forever changing the way we perceive the history of the pyramids. It all began in March 2025. At that time, archaeologists first spoke of a find beneath the Pyramid of Khafre, a find that shook the scholarly world. Professor Curado Malanga and Filippo Biondi presented scanned images in which spiral staircases and gigantic vertical shafts descending more than 600 meters into the Egyptian sands were clearly visible. These structures were so precise and so obviously man-made that dismissing them as geological quirks seemed simply impossible. But, as often happens, the official Egyptologists, headed by the notoriously famous Dr. Zahi Hawass, hurried to debunk the sensation. Everything, they said, could be explained by interference, errors in the data, misunderstanding. And of course, there were no conspiracies. Everything you think about these theories is absolute nonsense. We are hiding nothing, declared Hawass. Yet only a few weeks passed, and the world heard something even more astonishing. A new discovery was made, underground, striking, and, without exaggeration, revolutionary. What was found beneath the pyramids overturns our understanding of ancient Egypt. The scanning showed that beneath the Pyramid of Khafre, there truly exists a ramified system, a carefully engineered labyrinth of symmetrical chambers, extensive tunnels, and artfully created rooms. The complexity and engineering precision of these underground objects raised the chief question: who built them? And above all, how could something like this have remained secret for thousands of years? Is it possible that these structures were created by a civilization of which we know absolutely nothing? But even that is not all. A separate group of Japanese scientists discovered a strange L-shaped structure next to the Western Cemetery of Giza. Using modern methods of radar scanning and resistivity tomography, they found a construction hidden only 2 meters under the sand, and directly beneath it, an even more enigmatic square cavity 5 to 10 meters deep. What is it? An ancient portal? An entrance to something far more extensive? In this episode, we shall unravel step by step what exactly is concealed beneath the Giza plateau. We shall plunge into the sensational finds by Malanga's team under the Pyramid of Khafre, explore the mysterious structures reminiscent of portals beneath the Giza cemetery, and try to understand why official sources are so reluctant to acknowledge these discoveries. For history has shown more than once, what is first rejected eventually becomes a sensation. Remember Gobekli Tepe or Karahan Tepe? When they were first found, most specialists waved them away. Impossible, too early, too complex. And now they are recognized as revolutionary archaeological monuments. So is the same thing happening now beneath the Egyptian sands? Or is there something more? Perhaps certain circles find it advantageous that the truth about underground Giza remain hidden. Be that as it may, such things cannot be concealed for long. The evidence grows ever more compelling. Let us return to the beginning, to where it all started. March 2025. The revelation begins. Imagine, you are standing on the famous Giza plateau. The scorching heat, the sands glittering under the sun, and around you rise the most enigmatic structures on the planet, the pyramids. And there you are, part of a scientific expedition scanning the ground beneath these ancient colossi. No one knows what exactly the equipment will show. And suddenly, something utterly unexpected flashes on the radar screens, directly under the Pyramid of Khafre. So it happened in March 2025. Professor Curado Malanga and his team presented the results of a large-scale radar investigation. International media instantly picked up the news. 4 mysterious spiral structures were registered under the pyramid. Their origin and purpose remained unclear. It could have been a game of nature, or it could have been a human design. The radar showed how these forms coiled downward beneath the plateau, as if leading to the very heart of the Earth. Such precision and unusual shape instantly attracted scientists' attention. Was this geology's oddity, or traces of ancient construction? Additionally, the radars detected possible channels or tunnels through which water once flowed. This information suggested a thought. What if we are facing traces of ancient engineering? Perhaps our ancestors could control water, building underground systems. And although at that time all this still remained at the level of hypotheses, the very fact was staggering. Especially if we recall that the ancient Egyptians were indeed famed for their ability to manage water resources. If these underground systems are confirmed, this could change our understanding not only of the pyramids, but of the entirety of Egyptian civilization. As soon as the news reached the wider public, many eminent archaeologists, including that very Dr. Zahi Hawass, rushed to issue rebuttals. He stated, "It is not true, it cannot be. Do you want to say they are lying? Yes, they are lying." He asserted that the radar readings were exaggerated, that these were simply natural formations, and that the equipment did not provide reliable information at such depth. His argument was simple. One could trust only real scientists, not those Italians. To which journalists reasonably replied, "But they are scientists too, and they use the most modern methods." Malanga's supporters stood their ground. Their equipment was precise, the scans clear, the results repeatedly verified. Nevertheless, the official Egyptologists insisted the spirals were an illusion, the water geological, all of it mere noise. But should we be so hasty with conclusions? Let us recall how science in the past reacted to unexpected discoveries. Tutankhamun's tomb? At first it was called a fabrication. The Dead Sea Scrolls? Long considered forgeries. History knows plenty of examples when the scholarly community first frowned skeptically, and then, after years, accepted everything as fact. Exactly so here. Despite criticism and doubts, Malanga's team did not retreat. Their data were obtained with high-precision equipment. High-resolution scans showed not only spirals and cavities, but also possible tunnels. They insisted, before us is not nature's chaos, but a clearly engineered system. And although in March 2025 all this seemed unbelievable, it was then that the main questions were posed. Is this the work of humans or a geological anomaly? Are these structures connected with water channels or with something else? At that time, no one could imagine that all this was only the beginning. June 2025. Only a few months had passed. The Giza plateau was once more scorching hot, and Professor Curado Malanga and his colleague Filippo Biondi made a new statement, even more sensational. New scans beneath the Pyramid of Khafre showed not merely tunnels, they recorded a colossal underground complex. Huge chambers, spiral staircases, a complicated network of tunnels plunging deep below. This time, everything was clear, unambiguous. Even the skeptics were left bewildered. Judge for yourself. Radar images showed vertical shafts descending to a depth of more than 600 meters. That is almost twice the height of the Eiffel Tower. Chambers up to 80 meters wide, like an Olympic swimming pool or a large city hall. All of it arranged symmetrically, precisely, intentionally. There could be no talk of coincidence. It is hard to overestimate the scale. This was a real underground city hidden under the sands for millennia. Everything indicated that we were not dealing with a natural phenomenon, but with the work of human hands. As expected, the news instantly circled the globe. Media, archaeologists, history enthusiasts, everyone was astonished. But along with that, a new round of arguments began. The same critics, including Hawass, started to speak in the usual vein: unverified, exaggerated, impossible. They maintained that it was either equipment error or wrong interpretation of the data. But this time, the Italian team was prepared. All scans were duplicated by different devices, the results confirmed by several methods. Everything documented, everything transparent. This was genuine scientific work, not a hastily made sensation. And here arose the most important question. Why does official archaeology so stubbornly refuse to recognize the obvious? Malanga and his colleagues issued an extensive commentary. They emphasized, "Before us is architecture, not geology. Everything is too precise, too symmetrical, too rational. Such chambers and tunnels could not arise by chance. They were clearly constructed." But if this is true, who then erected them? If humans created all this, then either the ancient Egyptians were far more advanced than we thought, or there exists something we are unwilling to acknowledge. Perhaps before us are traces of forgotten civilizations that disappeared long before the first dynasties. Civilizations whose existence could completely overturn our conception of human history. Even despite the convincing data, official archaeology continued to insist on caution. Skepticism is normal, especially in science. But why in this case was the reaction so sharp, so categorical? Malanga's team declared openly, if it is confirmed that an underground complex truly exists beneath the pyramids, it will become a turning point in human history. For it would mean that in Egypt there once existed a civilization capable of building the most complex structures at depths of hundreds of meters, and possibly long before the Egyptian pharaohs. And now ask yourselves, did the ancient Egyptians really build the pyramids? One of the strangest enigmas of the Giza pyramids is the complete absence of concrete information about who built them and how. On none of the walls inside the pyramids are there clear indications. No names, no schematics, no records of construction, nothing. Everything upon which the official version rests is a single inscription discovered centuries after the construction, mentioning the name of Pharaoh Khufu. And that, it is merely graffiti, most likely made years or even centuries after the pyramid was erected. Imagine, you build a huge skyscraper. You spend years, strength, resources. Would you not wish to leave a memory of yourself? To put up a plaque stating who the author is? And here, silence. This leads to a terribly interesting thought. Perhaps the pyramids were built not by Egyptians at all, but by representatives of a far more ancient, now lost civilization. Theories about this have existed for a long time, but every time they encounter fierce resistance, not only from science, but also from the authorities. And indeed, whenever an independent scholar tries to obtain permission to study the underground structures, their applications are rejected, time after time. Meanwhile, the Egyptian authorities rigorously control everything concerning excavations in the pyramid zone. It creates the impression that someone very much does not want the truth to surface. But why hide it? What are they afraid of? Possibly, beneath the sands lies the so-called Hall of Records, the legendary library of the ancient world in which, according to myth, the answers to the most important questions are stored. Who built the pyramids? Why? And whence came the knowledge that allowed such monuments to be erected? If this is indeed so, if this structure exists and has been found, then incredible prospects open before us. For this may not just supplement history, it may rewrite it. The reasons for secrecy on the part of official structures are quite understandable. Egypt's economy depends heavily on tourism. Millions of people come every year to see the legacy of the pharaohs. And now imagine, it turns out that all this is not entirely their achievement, that the pyramids were built thousands of years earlier, and not by those who are usually considered the builders. This undermines the customary narrative. It strikes at national pride. It raises awkward questions for which no ready answers exist. Textbooks, films, excursions, everything would have to be reconsidered. Perhaps that is why new research is seen not as scientific progress, but as a threat. But can the truth be kept locked away forever? Meanwhile, at the beginning of 2025, a new research group entered the field. Scientists from Japan, representatives of Higashi Nippon University and Tohoku University, began their own investigations in the western part of the Giza plateau, on the territory of the ancient cemetery. And their find is in no way inferior in importance to the Italian discoveries. Using the newest methods, radar scanning and resistivity tomography, the Japanese team discovered a strange L-shaped structure only 2 meters below the surface, about 10 by 10 meters in size. But most interesting is how it was hidden. The construction was clearly deliberately covered with sand. Someone wished it not to be found. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. The second level of mystery. Beneath this enigmatic construction, the instruments registered yet another cavity, square, of the same size, but at a depth of 5 to 10 meters. Scans show that it is not just a dense mass or a piece of rock, but an empty chamber, perhaps containing air or loose material. The scientists documented everything in the utmost detail and published the data in the authoritative journal, Archaeological Research in Asia. The report states the shape, the location, the concealment under sand, all point to human workmanship. Naturally, this causes a storm of interest. What is this place? An entrance to an ancient hall? A repository? A secret passage? And why was it so carefully hidden? Of particular interest is that this discovery echoes Egyptian legends. Ancient traditions tell of hidden halls and passages beneath the Giza plateau. For a long time, this was considered fiction, beautiful tales. But now there is scientific confirmation. Perhaps that very hall of records exists. Or at least, there exists something that inspired the legends. It seems the history we know is only part of the truth, and the real story is still concealed under layers of centuries and sand. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes. Our history is like a book with torn-out pages, especially when it concerns the origin of civilization. Every time archaeologists find something truly unusual, whether underground structures in Giza or mysterious megaliths in Turkey, it becomes clear. We do not yet know the whole picture. And precisely in this context, the finds beneath Giza acquire special importance. These tunnels, chambers, and possible portals cast doubt on the very foundation of our chronology. Perhaps we have erred in dates, or underestimated the level of development of ancient peoples. Remember Gobekli Tepe, a site that changed our understanding of ancient humanity. It was discovered in the 1990s by archaeologist Klaus Schmidt. Initially, no one took it seriously. Too old, too complex. Hunter-gatherers could not have built such structures. And then excavations began. Massive stone pillars, complex images, thoughtful planning, and, most importantly, the age. More than 12,000 years. This was thousands of years earlier than was thought possible. It was believed that people then could build nothing. It turns out, they could. Later, near Gobekli Tepe, another site was found, Karahan Tepe. It in no way yields to its older brother. The same elaborated constructions, sculptures, clear traces of an organized society. And all of it in the same era, around 10,000 BCE. These two sites became a cold shower for science. They forced dogmas to be reconsidered and textbooks to be changed. They proved advanced communities existed long before the emergence of the first civilizations in Egypt and Mesopotamia. And now, a logical question arises. Is the same story repeating itself again? Are we on the threshold of yet another revision of the past? What was found beneath Giza, tunnels, chambers, strange geometric structures, not only matches in structure the megaliths of Turkey. These discoveries complement one another like pieces of a puzzle. And in both cases, science at first rejects, and then, under pressure of facts, agrees. Perhaps we stand before a new paradigm, the idea that civilization did not arise suddenly, but existed long before writing appeared. A civilization that possessed knowledge of architecture, astronomy, engineering, and perhaps it perished in a global catastrophe. It is interesting that ancient legends from all over the world speak of highly developed civilizations that existed before the Great Flood. Sumerian stories, Indian epics, the traditions of indigenous peoples of both Americas, all share the same line. There was a golden age, there was a powerful culture, and it disappeared in a catastrophe, most often connected with water. For a long time, scholars considered these tales myths. But as data accumulate, it becomes clear, maybe hidden historical truth lies in these tales. Geological studies of recent decades have confirmed, about 12,000 years ago, a sharp climatic shift indeed occurred. This period is called the Younger Dryas. Global weather conditions changed, glaciers melted, sea levels rose. This event could have destroyed coastal civilizations, flooded cities, and wiped advanced societies from the face of the earth, leaving behind only stone ruins and silent legends. It is precisely to this period that Gobekli Tepe is dated, and according to some data, so are the underground structures of Giza. Too many coincidences to ignore. One of the main arguments in favor of a more ancient origin of Egypt's monuments is the enigmatic Sphinx. Geologist Robert Schoch conducted studies that showed the body of the Sphinx bears traces of erosion characteristics specifically of water. But there has been no heavy rainfall in Giza for thousands of years, which means the Sphinx is much older than official sources claim. Moreover, there exists a tablet known as the Inventory Stele, found next to the pyramids. It states plainly, the Sphinx and other monuments were already ancient even in the days of the pharaohs. Yes, official archaeology rejects this tablet. But it exists, and it is yet another brick in the wall of alternative history. All these pieces of evidence, from Turkey to Egypt, from legends to scanners, come together in a single picture. Perhaps beneath the sands of Giza lie the legacy of a civilization that lived long before the pharaohs. A civilization that may have been the bearer of knowledge, architecture, and culture that do not fit into the conventional chronology. And if this is confirmed, we face a revision of the entire history of humanity. Today, we have a unique chance to begin filling those very blank pages of history. The underground complexes of Giza may become the starting point, the place from which a new chapter will begin, in which we stop viewing the past through the prism of dogma and start accepting facts, no matter how inconvenient they may be. And perhaps then we will finally draw nearer to answering one of the greatest questions: who really built the pyramids? You can be part of this process. Share your thoughts, theories, versions in the comments. What are your hypotheses? What if everything we considered myth is in fact fragments of truth, forgotten and masked by time? I will definitely respond to the most interesting comments. In the meantime, stay curious. See you on the Top Facts channel. Right now, watch our previous incredible episodes.